everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Long Coat Mafia podcast. It is I, the Reverend Godfather, and this week I have con crud. That's right, I got con crud. So please bear with me if I don't sound as energetic as I should be. And that being said, as well, I want to let you know there is some news I need to share, and it's going to have to wait until after everything is said and done for me to share that with you. It is general geek news that I want to get out there to all of you, but the thing is, I want to get the main topic out of the way, and that being that this week is a panel episode. Now, please stick with us. It is not a Paracon panel episode this week. Yeah, I know, it's a collective sigh of relief. It is a 4-State Comic-Con panel episode that I want to share with you this week. It's going to be the panel I was on with Josh from Victims and Villains and Jordan from Those Not So Super Dudes. So it was the Podcast 101 panel that we did on Saturday. Now, that also being said, I can't give standard disclaimers that this is not really our content when, for the most part, it kind of is. Nothing was really boosted or cut out for time. Now, I do have, I'll save that for the end of the broadcast as well. But please, it's about an hour long, hour and change long, give or take a few minutes. So, I hope you enjoy it. Here is the panel that I did with Josh from Victims and Villains and Jordan from Those Not So Super Dudes. Their links to their shows will be in the description, and I'll, because of reasons, sorry about that, Josh and Jordan, but please find Victims and Villains on Facebook, show them some love, and same thing with Those Not So Super Dudes, show them some love as well by going to their Facebook groups and or pages and clicking that like button as well as ours. So there's that. So here is that panel episode without any further delay. Welcome everybody to the Podcasting 101, or as they kind of told everybody on the schedule list, Podcast 101. I am the quasi-moderator, Chris Lemser, a.k.a. the Reverend Godfather from the Long Coat Mafia podcast. Here with me is...
I'm Jordan Smith. I'm one of the hosts from Those Not So Super Dudes, where we just talk about any and all things comics. And
I am Josh. My alter ego is Captain Nostalgia from the show Victims and Villains. We are the marriage between pop culture and suicide prevention.
Now, the thing is, I've been doing... To give you guys a reference point to how long we have not only just three different styles of podcasting here, there are three different ages here right now. Let me put it like this. I've been running the Long Coat Mafia for a little bit over 3 years, but prior to the Long Coat Mafia podcast, 10 years ago, I ran a defunct podcast known as The Electric Eye, and that ran for maybe about 8 months. Jordan here. I'm trying to remember names.
No, you're good, man. You're good.
How long have you been doing
it? We just hit our year mark just the other day. So we've actually done a lot more in a year than I ever expected. Like, this is probably the 4th con we've been to just this year.
How about you, Josh?
So before I answer, I have a question for you. Is your original podcast was it called The Electric Guy?
Right.
Is it the sequel to Electric Boogaloo?
No.
So I've been doing this for about 2.5 years. We started in spring of 2016.
And to let you guys know, when I started this round, the Long Coat Mafia, when I started this podcast, I wanted to mimic another podcast because I knew them quasi-personally over Xbox Live and Facebook, and that was, they're now defunct. They don't care if I let them know or let everybody know who they were. But that podcast was Slacker and the Man. They were more of a DJ-esque type podcast, geek-related nonetheless. And my game plan was similar to theirs, meaning that within the first 2 years, I was planning to have at least have a press pass at an event like this or larger. By year 3, having a table at an event. Also, maybe year 4, doing a panel. Sure enough, within my 4th month of starting my podcast, thanks to Matt, I don't know, he's not here, but I'll still give him credit. Thanks to Matt, I was covering my first convention and doing my first panel. And by my 2nd year, I was set up at a 4-state event. And larger events are much, much harder to get into. We'll get into that a little bit more in a bit. So, let me put it like this. Starting up a podcast, I don't mean to hog everybody here. We have different styles. A lot of people say you need just a laptop. Yeah, that's part of it. You need a decent microphone other than what's provided on the laptop. Some people say there's a microphone known as a Sony Go, which runs between $30 and $50. Let me show you guys something. I picked this little booger up on Amazon for about $40. It's a CAD USB condenser mic. Comes with a stand, super long cord. It's been my workhorse for over 3 years. When I do solo shows or just myself, this is what I use. And I work underneath the poverty line. I will brag that to everybody who comes around, that me getting a $40 mic, and I saved up for all this equipment here. It was hard for me to do, and I did it. And I work on a portable setting. So now I'm not sure what these fellows use or starting out, so we'll go down to the table and hear what they have to say. Who wants to go next?
So the way me and my buddy pretty much got started was I'll admit we did very, very little research. I just looked through some apps, some podcast apps, and found this app, Castbox.fm, which is a really good app. I listened to a bunch of other podcasts on it, and they just have an option where you can just like click the recording button and just go. So our first 10 episodes were kind of like that. They're not the best sounding quality, but since then I've kind of stepped up just a little bit. Bought like a Blue Yeti mic, just a USB mic, plug it in my desktop, and that's basically my entire setup. Right now, my portable setup is very limited. Again, I'm still working on that. I literally just record right off my phone. But you don't really think about what it takes to really start a podcast until you actually start it. Like, you think about it, you're just like, well, you just need a few microphones and this and that or whatever. And it's essentially, yes, but it's a lot harder to do than they make it sound, you know what I mean?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
I'll let Josh.
Yeah, man, go.
So I actually used to manage bands. So like I had some sound semblance, and so I actually use a Shure mic when we do in studio, and then I use a mic and a converter that my mom got me last year, similar to Chris's CAD recorder, and what you want to do, I think when you do portable events too, that I think a lot of people, we were talking about this before we started, it don't know, is when you plug a 3mm into a phone or an iPad or a tablet, that device is going to recognize it as a headset. So you're going to get all that background noise from the convention, you're going to get all that background noise from the wind or whatever's going on outside. And Amazon sells a $6 converter that you guys can get. It's got a place to plug in not only the microphone, but also the headset, so you can actually listen along while you do it. And it's made a world of difference to it. It makes it sound more intimate when you listen to it in its entirety.
Let me put it like this. When I covered my first convention, again, this was 3 years ago. Literally 3 years ago, thanks to Matt. My setup, I didn't have an app on my phone to record an interview. I had my digital recorder with me, which I since lost, but dummy me didn't use it. I was using this and my this is not my laptop. Thanks to Windows updates, my laptop with a sizable chunk of my show, thank God I backed up most of it, is now pretty much bricked thanks to Windows updates. This is on loan.
I'm currently, that's why we have a raffle at our booth right now to help raise funds to get a new laptop. This laptop here is thanks to my co-host. He had a spare to loan me until I'm able to get a new one. But if you go back into our archive 3 years ago, I'm using this and the laptop we had, and the audio is not pretty. Literally, it's not pretty, but it worked. Because it was getting, like all condenser mics, they're highly sensitive, and they tend to pick up every noise.
Oh, yes.
In a room like this, it'll pick it up. But one of the troubles I had in regards to recording panels and all that, recently I looked into, at a con, I was like, listen, I politely asked, can I cover your show? And they said, sure, why not? We'll even give you a table. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I'm looking at, it's a $60 value. I get to promote my show. And while I was there, I was asking the panelists, can I record your panel for my show? And this is a room about the size of this event center that is completely open. It's like the size of 2 football fields, both ways. And they had a PA system set up, which this could pick up nice and fine. And a lot of the panelists, at least 2 that I don't want to mention on air, that I could call out right now, they literally refused to use the PA mic or the mic I had set up on the podium. And what they were doing is, I'll get up, because I got that mic over there. They would get up, come down off the stage, like this, sit down, and talk to the audience like this. Where's the PA mic? Up behind them. Now you use it. And when I went to record, it was just like a flat line like this. I could not boost it at all. And for those of you out there looking to get started, the recording, I cannot vouch for Josh or my other panelists.
Jordan.
Sorry,
Is it that hard a name,
yes.
Chris?
2 J's. I use Audacity. Audacity is completely free. And as you can see, I turned the mic to me, so I'm able to pick myself up. But there are plenty of other recording software out there that costs, but Audacity is the best option for people on a budget. And it's one that most people use, and it's available.
I think too that like a lot of like the podcasting communities that like I've gotten to know and other shows that I've gotten to befriend and know over the years, like Audacity is the way to go. Especially if you don't really know what you're doing. Like me and Jordan, our first 30 episodes are atrocious.
They're pretty bad.
So essentially, like what we would do is we just use Audacity for it. Audacity, when you update it too, it also has a way to where if you have someone is calling in over Skype, you have a way to also record that. If you guys want to also have like some of the stuff that we do, we will like snippet trailers sometimes when we cover a movie, less than like 10 seconds, but like you have with Audacity you have that option to record straight from the speakers. And with Skype is the most reliable. I know most people don't tend to use it, but Skype is the most reliable, and there are many both paid and free ways to record through Audacity that's available to everybody. YouTube is your best friend in regards to that. One of the other free aspects to record other than Audacity that comes with most computers, I'll say most, that is GarageBand, which is available on, I think it comes standard with a lot of Macintoshes. Yep.
But I don't know if they updated it recently, but when I was doing the Electric Eye, we were only limited to 30 minutes total.
Oh no, you can now with that. Like I'm not a Mac guy, but one of my best podcast friends is. He swears by Apple, and now you can record up to like 4 or 5 hours at a time.
So that's good. Back when we started, like I said, we were only limited to 30 minutes. That's with beginning and ending music. And you'll hear, I'm part of 3 different forums on Facebook. The biggest two is Podcast Discovery Center and Podcasts We Listen to. And basically, when you ask something like, how long should a podcast be, you will start a fight. Literally, you'll start a fight. Some people will say, it can't be no more than half an hour. You have others that say, can't be more than an hour. It doesn't matter. The main thing you got to remember is it's your show. If it has to last 4 hours, it'll let it last 4 hours. Again, to use them as a kind of an analog, Slacker and the Man, when they were doing it, they initially were a 2-hour show. Then eventually they went up to 4 hours, and they did a poll. Should we cut it down? What should we cut it down to? Or should we cut it down to? Should it be an hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours? It was equally split amongst their listeners. And we're talking a listener base that was 3,000 listeners per week. So it doesn't really matter. And if you do choose to have a opening music for your show, I can't speak for them, but the standard is a minute. Literally, it's a minute. Because after that, you tend to lose a lot of people. I've cut mine down from a minute to 14 seconds.
Woo.
And
I've had to split mine kind of in half, make like a shorter version.
Because there are some shows out there, they'll literally put a 5-minute song into as their beginning music. But what I've come to find out is, like, when I ask people how much of my show have you listened to? Oh, 5 seconds. I turned it off. I didn't like it. Then you heard nothing. And that's usually the standard by some people. But there is a way around it. There are many royalty-free music sites that are out there that you could use that will give you a 7-day free trial. So rob them blind because some of the royalty-free music could cost a couple $100, and when they give you this free trial, it's like, take your pick. You're limited to like 7 a day for the next 7 days. So just take your pick. It's there. And again, join the Facebook groups, because what happened with me, again, me doing this, being one of the standard faces for 4-State, is because what happens is you might walk into somebody saying, hey, I'll give you free voiceover work for first 30 people, free voiceover work. And we got, he does a lot of radio commercials out of Pittsburgh. His name is Spike. He goes by Spike Reel. And he was like 30 words for free for the first 30 people, and I looked into it. And he gave me a minute's worth of content, literally a minute's worth of content that I used for my ending, my startup. And one of the things I didn't ask him to do, because we kind of we go by the aspect of kind of a quasi-mafia theme. He went, you're listening to the Long Coat Mafia, capiche? In an Italian accent. I was like, dude, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. He gave us a minute. That's awesome. So there are you get a lot of advice going through a few groups and channels. So pass it down to you guys.
To pick up where you were talking about with music and everything, what we've been known to do is the guy that I host my show with, my buddy that I've known for like 10 years or more, he's a guitarist. So he did the opening for our show, and what we've been trying to do is actually find local artists that are just trying to get their music out there. So, we support local artists and we want to help that. So, I mean, I've reached out to friends that I know that make music and stuff like that. We'll add them to our episodes and everything to help kind of promote their stuff. And from what I understand, it helps and everything. So even if you have like a friend that's willing to kind of help you out with that knows his way around a guitar or anything like that, that's also helpful, because then not only are you getting your intro or your ending music, but you're supporting somebody in what they do. And to me, that's just awesome.
And if anything, it's like, you know what? I'll give you $10.
Yeah, if anything, yeah.
And it's on the cheap. And I'll say this, for the opening intro, sound drops can be your friend. Literally, sound drops can be your friend. We had on our show for at least a better part of a year, due to scheduling conflicts, we had a female co-host, and I brought her on. That way we'd have at least a female voice on the show. And one of the things that she said that I had to use as a sound drop for the longest time, because she was being a little bit sarcastic, was that her view was, fake gamer girls that you see online that will have like a Nintendo controller and like, I really love the Xbox One. And so she's dropped the aspect role comment, I'm a gamer, I'm wearing a bikini. I'm like, I'm writing down that time code because it's snarky, it's funny, and it kind of works on the same level. So I use that, but I've moved on since I've gotten a better voice for the show. And again, I've called Spike Reel my voice of God. And for those who have listened to my show know that I used to listen to Coast AM, and they have their own voice of God, which means the person that does their bumper intros has this deep baritone voice, which they nicknamed the voice of God. Like, listen to the you're listening to Coast AM. So that's what Spike was to us, our voice. That's why I told my co-host, we have our own voice of God. So you got to have fun. That's the main rule for it.
Absolutely.
Pipe in anytime, Josh.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I think that one thing that you have to understand about podcasting is that it has to be fun. And with ours, I feel like our show's a little bit unique because it does deal with such heavy topics like depression and suicide, but we also talk about Avengers and Marvel and DC, and we just did all 10 Halloween movies. So, nice. Like, you still have that, and say Halloween, and there's spurts
Smoke.
Everywhere. Yeah.
You said the magic word.
Well, clearly Michael's here. But you have to have fun, and you have to understand your audience too. And so, I think one thing that I want to ask you guys is the presence of a network, because we're on their second network right now, and our spinoff show has a third. So like, I know a lot of people have this like black eye view on networks. Like, do you guys think that networks help or hurt podcasts?
Me personally, I got offered, a buddy of mine out of Nashville was in essence trying to start his own network. He has multiple podcasts already, a part of that. And as much as I wanted to join it up, I knew that he went through, when he started up his podcasts, what happened was I'm not going to go into it, but basically he went through a bad breakup with somebody. And that person he was seeing took all his passwords and his website away from him. And fearing that happening again, this was not against him at all, because he's a great guy, and she pretty much deceived him and everything else, took him for everything he was worth. I went against it just in case something like that happened again. And sure enough, a couple of months ago, somebody hacked his site, and he has to reboot everything all over again. So I work with him, but I don't work part of a network other than the site that I upload to. And
I think, well, let me just kind of chime in what you're saying. Like, I think too, like the networks, they kind of get a bad rep, and we went through something with our first network that was like that, where like the guy that ran it, like we didn't really see eye to eye anymore. Like it wasn't helping us, it wasn't hurting us, but we kind of backed off, and we kind of wanted to develop our own thing and our own voice. And we were approached by a guy that I've gotten to know this year over the last couple of years over Philly, and like we set the ground rules. We're like, if we want to be a part of our network, if you want us to be a part of your vision, your network, these are the things that we want to do. We keep our RSS feed, we keep all our passwords. Like, it's uploaded to your site, but it's not something that you have total control over, because at the end of the day, like, I think that's what a lot of people fear, is that loss of control. But if it's with the right people and you know them, I feel like it, and you kind of like talk about your terms and conditions, a podcasting network can essentially help you, but it can also hurt you. So it's something that you have to be really careful with.
Yeah, you have to ask a lot of questions. You don't necessarily have to join one. I could try go through the whole meme and go, but it helps. But personally, you don't have if it works for you. What works for us might not work for you, or it might work better or worse for you.
Right.
So it's just our suggestion. For the most part, I know a lot of people that know web design and could build their own website and have their own RSS feed. Me personally, like Josh here, Jordan, again,
He's
new
Josh.
people.
Shorter hair.
Short hair. We go through a not so much a network. We upload to a site, a service site. I go through Podbean. I know Jordan goes through Podbean. There's Lisbon. Let's see, what other list? My cheat sheet right here, folks.
We go through one that's not really recognized, but we really love them. Ours is Blog Talk Radio. They have great content. It's run by the gentleman Jay something,
Right.
but he actually started the ESPN network.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, there's like not only that, there's Speaker, Blueberry. Some people swear by SoundCloud, but let me put it like this: Podbean and Lisbon are around about $10 a month. SoundCloud charges for unlimited $15, and it seems like every other week I get news in SoundCloud is going out of business. So therefore, your best option is going through like Blog Talk Radio, Libsyn, Podbean.
And Podbean can get you from Podbean to Spotify too.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would also say that Spreaker is really good for the limited time that our spinoff show did it. It allowed you to upload directly to right to YouTube. Not only does it get you on Spotify, but if you have like the premium options, you can go through Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Alexa, and just pretty much all the standard sites past that. It's
Yeah,
something
with,
I would really recommend.
With Podbean, because me and Jordan go through Podbean. I know Podbean, you're able to upload directly to YouTube. It's easy to connect to Google Play, iTunes. You're able to upload supposedly up to Facebook. I haven't noticed. When I selected Tumblr, Twitter, plus Spotify. A lot of it, once you're able to get that RSS feed, any service that's out there that is able to share that RSS feed is able to do so. Besides, with in regards to like Alexa, the Podbean app is available for Alexa, so Alexa is able to at least play anything that's on Podbean. So, and what I tend to do with my show, speaking of Podbean, I tell everybody, because iTunes tends to be as finicky as a pissed off cat, go straight to our site, use the Podbean app, because it tends to be a little bit more reliable. So.
iTunes I think is like, but iTunes is one of those things that's valuable now.
Right.
Because like with the way that other streaming services are, it's really easy to kind of get in, like lost in the white noise almost. Because essentially, I think one thing that people in podcasting don't understand is that when you start a podcasting, it is like stepping into an ocean. Everyone has a podcast.
Pretty much, yeah.
And you have to dignify yourself with what is going to make you stand out. For us, it was taking pop culture, but providing resources for those people that are struggling with suicide and depression. And with iTunes, given the way that their algorithms are written, the more that you actually have iTunes reviews, the higher probability of visibility you have.
Yeah,
Right.
it eventually, what he's saying is true. At one point, the reviews mattered, then they didn't matter. Now they matter again, which is kind of silly and stupid, and kind of like the three of us have uniquely different names, especially in the geek culture of podcasting, because when you could type in Geek into iTunes store, and you'll have thousands of titles with Geek in them. So having kind of like a unique title or a unique title for your show, nonetheless, kind of helps you stand out. And yeah, a lot of people have complained about at least my show because you guys sound like you're from that long Trenchcoat Mafia folks. I'm like, do you even know how to freaking use Google? Because, you look up my show, the name of my show, my show on Facebook, my show on Podbean, are the first stuff that comes up. Google's your friend. And they don't want to know about it.
But Google's really specific too. Like you have to know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So like if my wife pointed out to us that like the cards that we have out front here, they provide, there's resources for suicide prevention on there, and it says, hey, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, iTunes, and YouTube. But the thing that sucks is that when we made it, we forgot to actually put our website on there.
Right.
So it's one of those things that like if you just search for the podcast, like you can find more of the chances. Like if you Google Long Coat Mafia podcast, you'll have iTunes available, you'll have your host site available, your website. If you search victims and villains, you'll have the same thing. You'll have events that we've previously done, YouTube channel, stuff along those lines as well.
Right.
Yeah, that's one thing we forgot to kind of mention. Our information in regards to our shows are down on front of the stage if you want to pick anything up.
Yeah, and whenever you do like promotional stuff and merchandising, it's good to put that what you are. If you look at our business cards, it does not say anywhere that we're a podcast. So we are a podcast.
I don't have my cards with me. My cards look like a cassette tape. I can't tell the ages of the audience, so I'm probably being polite. It looks like something made from K-Tel records and tapes.
People are going to be like, what is this? what is this?
I think I saw this in Guardians.
But it's...
Where's Baby Groot?
But it gives our website, our email, and at least my name on it. And it kind of says that we are a podcast. But our flyers have gone...
I think, too, let me interject, because, like, the way that we have, like, out here, like, it describes, like, who we are. But if I have, like, business affairs, like if I want you on my show or I want to interview you for a later date, it's really important to like have like just a simple business card that has your logo, maybe a tagline, your name, and where people can like either call you or email you.
Right. And business cards you can find extra. It's like checks. You can find them sites for $500 for $10. Literally.
Oh yeah.
I have basic single color flyers that I first did up. I could get 100 for about $30 done, printed up. Color right now in this area, like the ones that are sitting right there, my color flyers I have to wait at least once a year to do it. I have to almost ration them out because they cost 50 cents a piece. I could get it down to 35 if it's over 150. So it's redonkulous, so to speak, to put it politely. So I'm sure there's being polite. Let me put it like this: I'm sure Jordan and Josh could vouch for it. Being polite will take you far. That's how I got, in essence, into the one convention I did a few months ago. It was that one I told you got. You folks out there in regards to the panels being kind of poorly done, so to speak. I emailed and said, listen, I understand the tables are expensive right now. I can't really do it, but I would love to cover your show if I can. And I explained who we are, what we cover, and that it would be great if we were able to cover it. And he emailed me back, you got a table. You're more than happy to cover it and be here doing interviews and all that. So sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. So you have to kind of ask. There are some of the larger shows that are out there. I cannot speak for Baltimore Comic Con, but I know Awesome Con kind of baits and switches everybody. They give you false hope because they tell you that, hey, all you have to do to, if you want to cover our show as press, sign up, give us, a couple links, show us what you've done, tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll get back to you. Oh, what? Your name's not Chris Hardwick, or your name's not Joe Rogan, or you're not part of the local TV stations? Bye-bye, denied. But with Otacon, I've covered it with my show, for 2 years straight. And I'm like, wait a minute, guys do realize we badmouthed you before? Because that's what we've done on our first year. We gave you kind of, due to bad experiences, we badmouthed you guys. Now you're letting us cover your show? What's up? And they were polite enough to give us a chance for 2 years in a row. And we stepped up in regards to that. They literally changed our mind. So, guys?
All in all, just, pick something that you are really passionate about. Like, the reason that me and my buddy talk about this stuff is because we started talking about this stuff the day we met. Like, we met in high school talking about Smallville. And because you don't like Smallville?
I
we'll
have
get into
my
that later.
reservements.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Smallville.
All right.
Oh.
Well,
That's rough.
I grew up with Smallville. It was kind of my show. So we were talking about it. Of course, he's a big Batman fan. I grew up with Superman. And so it was always a nice back and forth. But, we were just really passionate about this stuff. And we didn't realize when we started this that, we're mostly doing it for fun, but it was a good way, of course, for us to hang out and to actually meet some really awesome people. Like, I met Chris earlier this year. I met Josh just today. And, they're both awesome. And we didn't think we'd be doing any cons or anything for at least a year. Like I said, this is our fourth. And just a year. And, it's been amazing. And
his first panel.
Yeah, it's my first panel. So, and it's just been so much fun. And, like, we love what we talk about. And the people we meet, we bring on the show, and they love it. And we just get into these really long conversations that take what could be just like an hour of editing to about 3 to 4. So, but I honestly love the process. It's fun.
Man, your show is like so random. So
it can be. Yeah.
It starts like right here, and then it slowly goes right here, and then it goes right here, and then it goes right here.
We do
right
so much
here,
jumping
here.
back and forth.
Show ADD.
Yes.
I think you've heard my show ADD before, Josh.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, when we started, we tried to like bring in so many topics in at once. We're like, okay, it's too much jumping around. People are getting confused. We're not giving, that subject the attention it deserves. So we're like trying to minimize it and try to do less jumping around. I'm trying to, because I will admit, it's my buddy is more the one that kind of like will travel, like segue here to here, and I'm like, okay, let's try to bring it back a little bit. But other than that, it's just all in good fun, and it's especially when you love what you talk about.
Yeah, and like for us, like we were, I was in conventions before I started podcasting, and like my whole heart behind doing conventions starting off was like, it was ministries. I was like telling people about Jesus and like loving on them and like telling them that God's not this dude that hates them and says, I hate fags. Like that was not his heart. And one thing we were finding was that depression and suicide were like real in these communities. And so we wanted to be a voice that was gonna combat that and tell them, look, you might be like struggling, but hey, there's always hope. There's always there's always a reason to hold on for another day. And when we started, like we were nerd news, like so we were a lot like your show, and like since then, like we've really honed in on focused on like we just this past week we just did worst video games.
Oh, nice.
And we also did another episode earlier this week that covered it's really bad. I can't remember what my own show was, but like this month, like we've covered like Halloween, Venom. Just like we just focused on like one topic, and that was kind of our goal. But it was also to like marry that thing with pop culture and connect a mental health theme from whatever the source materials that we're covering, and they kind of brought everything back. So it feels random at times, but when you're like sitting down and listening to it, everything wraps up really nicely.
The thing is with ours is, at least my show, is that I try to educate when possible, meaning that if I'm able to record panels, I'll record a panel. That way, if there's something to be learned, or the audience is able to learn, they'll get something out of it. But in our host-based episodes, it's geek news, nerd news, or something that is related to the geek culture, I tend to, or I'll brag saying most of what I say is fact. I'll research, I'll know, it's knowledge that I have to share to everybody. But there's always that 1/3 that's complete bull, and I might actually purposely put bull in there to see, all right, who's going to call me out on this? And I'm like, wait a minute, nobody's calling me out. I probably said 2 + 2 = 8, and no one's saying you're wrong. What the heck is going on?
It might in a parallel universe. We don't know that.
We don't know.
And part of me is doing that to get kind of an audience reaction and interaction from our listeners. And it's kind of hard to do because I also have told people, I've told these folks, at least Jordan, that in the county that I live at, I am the most hated podcaster in the county. I have my local library hates my fat butt. The local promotion committee will cross the street to avoid me because of what I've done. Because what happened was, I used to record at our local library, and because they lost one director that was pretty much selling off all the books in the library, she was literally scamming the library for all it's worth and pretty much creating a rift between the library and the community, which still, in my opinion, I'm not going to go into that, but I was one of the front runners in reference to getting this director fired and telling what the policies that they're still enacting today are wrong because it's still putting that rift between them and the community. That's why I'm hated at the library. And because I tend to promote my show more than our local rinky-dink town promotion committee does, that's why they give me a wide berth, because I do everything within, in essence, the law. Meaning if let this regards to these two guys. My style is, one, if I could set up at a local park and not bother anybody and promote my show, I'm able to do so. And that's how I set up at local events near where they are, and they hate me for it. So advertising can be cheap as hell, and I'll do it. I have one friend who runs Podcast Bay, 3 years in a row. He got sponsorship. He sponsors a demolition car at a local demolition derby. All his podcast is about is helping set up podcasts for businesses. And it gets out, $50 is what he spends on each vehicle, a year on each vehicle. That's all. It does not have to be expensive. So, you got to pick and choose.
I think, too, with advertising, too, social media is a huge component.
Absolutely.
And, given the way that Facebook re-algorized themselves this beginning of this year, it's really hard for independent creators, whether you're a podcast, a comic creator, or a filmmaker, or even an artist. It's extremely hard to get reached, but when you have resources out there like Twitter and Facebook groups, and even a buddy of mine from Louisiana, they constantly make sure that they are doing one event a month where they're just getting together and having coffee with their audience, core audience in their own hometown. Like, getting to know your audience is super crucial.
Oh, yeah.
And when we first started, we were going to, we went everywhere but that. And, our main focus for this year has not only been expansion, but it's also been making relationships with local people here and getting to know our audience. I'm not from Hagerstown. I'm from Chambersburg. But this year, we've been able to do, we did Waynesboro Convention. This is the second time we've covered 4-State Comic-Con. We did an event with Comics World up in Chambersburg, and we've made really good friends with a local artist out of Carlisle, Jason So. Check out Necroman. It's an amazing book.
And the thing is, in reference to the event that he did in where was it, that event? It was Free Comic Book Day, right?
Yeah.
And what happened was they inadvertently tagged us, my show, and I was like, no, that's Josh from Victims and Villains, but we're happy for the shout out nonetheless. It was just that, I have to me getting to know fellow creators, that helps. A lot of people will say, Facebook boost. That does not work.
It doesn't. And like I learned from like firsthand. So like one of our original co-hosts, like I run the show by myself now, but like one of our original co-hosts, he is an independent folk singer, and he did a boost for like $5. Literally all it did when he put out his album was it got him more of a Chinese audience. It was all it appealed to.
And the thing is, for me, I did a $5 boost and a $10 boost. It's back when it was 2016. I had more eyes on it, but no clicks. That's it.
I did that earlier this year too with a $10 boost.
It was, and the thing was, they take it out at the end of the month instead of right then and there. And I was like, what the hell? You couldn't take it out right away. So and the thing is, I could boost something and it could barely get any views.
Well,
Josh could boost the same. It would be the same wording, same photo, same link. Josh could boost it. It could get 1,000 views. He could do it, 50 extra views. I could do it 100 views or nothing. That's how it works. Literally, same exact wording, same everything down to the T. Even the same amount of boost. So.
And two, when you're talking about social media too, another huge factor is connecting with your audience. So like, we just covered, like I said, we covered all 10 Halloween movies, which also included the very controversial, very divisive Rob Zombie reboots. And our question was, what are your thoughts about the Rob Zombie remakes? Like, did you like them? Did you hate them? Why? And if you can start a conversation out of that post, it reaches more people.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Like we're about to do this.
I always tell everybody, whatever you have.
Same thing with Venom.
And I should be doing it at the beginning, but I do it at the end of the show. All our shows, it's saying whatever we said. Here's our social media. Here's our email. Here's our Twitter. Feel free to contact us and tell us what you think. Well, right now, since it's getting close, questions from if you guys have any questions, feel free to. No questions? Okay, we can ramble on for another couple of minutes. But like I said, when I give interviews, I have 3 basic rules I tell that person. First rule is language does not matter. Meaning, if they need to curse, rant, rave, they can do so. The only exception is no racial slurs whatsoever. The only exception to that is if it was for educational purposes only. Meaning, she's here at the show in reference to being transgender. And in order to help teach the audience about transgender, the being an ally, some of the slurs that tend to be used towards the transgender community had to be said in order to kind of give them less weight. So I had to be devil's advocate in that situation in order to get her point of view out there. The second rule I have is what I tend to call the NDA rule or the non-disclosure rule, which means if I say something that might cause drama, I think you might heard me say that when we did our crossover at the library. If there's any drama, if I say something that's going to cause drama, let me know right away that we could squash it on air. Or if I'm speaking to, like, there's several celebrities here, if they're on a project that they can't really talk about other than they're part of it, it allows them, like, I can't really talk about it other than it's coming out soon and that I'm part of it. And the third one is have fun. That's it. Have fun.
It really is. And real quick, with like getting to know your audience and everything, like I met this guy, Ian Wallace from Amalgamania, and actually just this week I was part of their Who Dares Wins show that they have going on and everything. Yeah, and it's so much fun. So you really get to know all these other people and find out that they're doing their own thing, and then you get to be part of that. And not only are you helping promote their stuff, but they're helping promote you. So it's a lot of back and forth, and it is very helpful to especially get to know your audience.
And a huge part of it, like being being a podcaster is, at least in my opinion, is you want to, community is a huge part. So like, you know, like Jordan and I we just met face to face today, but like we were talking for like 3 or 4 hours last night about just like random
stuff.
just like random stuff. Like it's just getting to know your audience and like building those relationships, but building them with the intent to actually know that person and not just to say, I want to work together. Like, what can I get out of this? You want to be genuine. Like, I'm working on an independent comic project right now, and it started out as a joke on our show on air, and it developed into something serious, and it was all because I got to know the publisher beforehand, and I called him a friend before I got to call him boss.
And the thing is, what I'm trying to do that myself. I had a guest on, but to back up, I was doing a crossover with somebody, and we made a passing remark that in regards to bronies and the My Little Pony fandom. And 3 weeks later, I had a guest. He wanted to be on the show, talk about wrestling and talk about being an artist himself. And he said, "I have something for you." And he pulls out. He said, "I got 2 gifts for you." And he pulls out a metal 20-sided Dungeons and Dragons dice. And he said, "I have a second little gift for you, and it's my little way of getting vengeance on your brony remark. And it's a My Little Pony Dungeons and Dragons type of role-playing book."
Yeah.
He said, "We're going to play this one of these days." And I have to get in touch with him one of these days to actually do that. It might actually become an episode to find out how to play it, how to set it up, and everything else. It was a gag gift, and I took it on the chin, and it was laughs all around. It's like, all right, you got me. You got me.
Can I be a part of that?
Yeah, go sure. So,
We don't wrap it up with social
Yeah.
media.
yeah, we'll wrap
probably.
it up. So, we'll probably have another group in. I don't know who's next.
I think it's cosplays next.
Yeah, I think they got
cosplay.
cosplays going on.
So if anything, I'll have to get it with them, see if I can let this thing run through. I'll just chop it up and give it to you guys.
Word.
That sounds good. But yeah, overall, guys, just have fun with it. Definitely do your research.
Right.
Definitely do your research.
Do your research. The podcast groups on Facebook are your friends.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Podcast Discovery Center, podcasts we listen to, DC podcasts. There are a bunch out there. I personally recommend podcasts we listen to and Podcast Discovery Center because there are a bunch of great people there, and they will literally give you a crap ton of resources. My cheat sheet today came from Podcast Discovery Center from their Google Documents. It was just something that I printed up offhand. That way I had something more reliable to tell all of you instead of personal anecdotes. So,
We appreciate you guys coming to.
coming to
Come
Ford
and listen.
State.
Yeah,
And everything else, so we
absolutely,
hope you have a wonderful day.
Again, these guys have flyers down there. I've got business cards. And
So just to kind of wrap up on an, I guess, awkward transition note.
That's our bread and butter right here.
oh yeah.
But if you guys are in this room right now, know there's like a crap ton of cosplayers over there, and you guys are waiting for the cosplayer, the costume contest. Are actually, if you guys are in this right now, this room, and you or someone you know is struggling with suicide, addiction, self-harm, or depression, I actually brought resources with me. They're up the back of the stage with these guys. That's the whole reason we push out the content that we do, so that you guys can know that there is
If you
hope.
are, get help. Please do.
Take a flyer.
Take a flyer. We can't urge that. I can't urge that enough. So I will commend Josh and Victims and Villains for what they do, and the message that they try to put out. So I will never knock them for that. So, and thank all of you for coming, and take care.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that was the panel. I hope all of you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, comments, or anything else, please send them our way at longcoatmafia@gmail.com. So there's that. And what I want to first get out, and it relates to 4-State Comic Con. Even though we have 2 more panels from Paracon left, I'm going to save them until a little bit later to share with all of you. But what I want to tell you about 4-State Comic Con is thus. We have a lot of content stemming from 4-State. So next week I'll probably be doing a interview panel sort of deal. Because I have 3 interviews I want to share with you, and I think like 3 more panels I also want to share with you. So we're going to do it kind of that way. And the first interview we're going to bring to all of you is that the one we did with Monique Dupree. There was a lot of stuff. It was a wonderful interview. So she's going to be next up. She's in the batter's box, so to speak, to use a sports reference to with that interview. So that's that. And the news I wanted to get out that has come across our desk that's fresh in my mind, and I wanted to tell all of you before we close out the show, and that is 2 bits of drama happened today, Saturday, October, let's see, what is today? 27th. That's right. About 4 days before Halloween, there was a lot of kind of drama happening, and both of them kind of relates to horror shows. One near, obviously relatively near me, but it's in the northeastern part of the United States. Another one in the southeastern part of the United States, in Florida. The one that's near me is in Jersey. So let's start with the aspect of what's been happening in Florida. What has been happening is that there was Spooky Empire, and a lot of stuff has been going down. From what was told by me is that it was a Funko Pop issue. That's right. They had their own limited edition convention exclusive. It was an Elvira limited edition con exclusive. Now, from when I asked what was going on, and my sources said that they were supposed to be there like Friday night by 5 p.m. and they didn't show up until like midnight, so people weren't getting them until like today or something like that. And now let me just say let me say this, is that these the Funko Pop that I seen referenced and brought up, somebody did another source that is kind of, I don't want to say closer to show, but that I kind of use. He shared a link of what he kind of found. He said, "Can you believe this?" And it's one of the Funko Pops, unsigned, from Spooky Empire. And that pop, unsigned, unopened, still in box, was going for over $515. That's right, $515 for one pop out of Spooky Empire. I think is either Tampa or Orlando, and weird light. But let me just say, it was just that's a lot of money for a Funko Pop. Now, he shared later that day, he found another eBay auction, and that one was for over $800 for a signed Elvira Funko Pop from the show. $800. Oh, that's almost $1,000 for a Funko Pop. Can you believe that? Would you buy a Funko Pop that is a convention exclusive? No matter what, whether it's a Wizard World exclusive, a San Diego exclusive, a Spooky Empire exclusive, would you buy one off of eBay for over $500? Let us know by sending us an email at longcoatmafia@gmail.com. Now, the other instance that happened today that I just found out, and that is coming from, let me bring it up, folks. It should be real quick because it is automatically up on my phone, and that is Chiller Theater out in New Jersey had a situation today, or at least that it was coming out today. And the news article states that, now this is an independent source, it came out earlier today, and is that there was either a bomb threat or a gas leak that came out of Chiller Theater. And because it kind of says through several different sources, because no one really knows what exactly happened. Just that the hotel where it's located, or the facility that it's located in, was cleared out, and the people that were there were told that they couldn't be anywhere closer than 100 feet from the location. It is, it says, bomb threats are no joke, and an autograph show is extremely complex events to stage, with fans coming from around the country and celebrities as well. So it was kind of both. It says one, I think it's either a Instagram or a Facebook post. It said, me and Carmel Lecture chilling at the Chiller Theater signing. The event was evacuated because of a gas leak and a bomb threat. I guess it was both, but we're still in good spirits. Thanks everybody for coming out to see us. Too bad it was cut short. Wow, so I guess it was cut short. So I hope they're going to be there tomorrow. These events are usually 2 to 3 days. Some last 3 days, some last 2 days. Wow. I mean, this is stupid. You know, folks, please, with all the craziness that's been happening in the news and all that, please, these are fun events. Why must you be the freaking negative Nancy, so to speak, the total asshole that has to ruin events like this? Yeah, gas leaks are bad, and they have to be controlled, and people gotta be evacuated, so everybody's safe and sound. We want you folks to be safe and sound. Matt Burns from 4-State Comic-Con will tell you the first and foremost that he's concerned with in regards to the show, and his crew is concerned with in regards to the show, is your safety. They want you to be safe. If that means cutting the show short, yeah, he's going to be pissed that he's going to be out a bunch of money because the show is cut short for the day. But I'm sure he'll make things right for the next day if folks want to come back out, if they're missed out. But his thoughts are, we'd rather you, the fans, be safe. So I hope everybody's okay. All the news that's been coming out right now is okay. And as per the Funko Pop issue, like I said, that was a shipping error, an error that, from what my one source said, that it was delivered to one location by, I guess, 5, from what he heard, but it was the wrong location. It took them a couple hours to sort things out to find out where everything was, and a lot of people were freaking pissed. So, but that doesn't seem that bad as much as, a bomb threat / gas leak at a different location. Again, there are a lot of sickos out there in the world that just want, for whatever reason, to make people be miserable. If you're one of those people that want to make people miserable, fuck you. I'll say that right here and now. You shouldn't be making people miserable. The conventions like 4-State, Chilla Theater, and Spooky Empire are places to have fun, mingle, and for a lot of people, kind of shed the social anxiety for a little while and have a good time and have their spirits raised, and that whole aspect. So I'm going to kind of leave it at that. We're a little bit over the hour mark. And let me just say this. If you have any questions, comments, or smart remarks, even though we'll try, if more information comes out, I don't see any updates on this. But like I said, there has been no updates in this. But let me just say this. If you have any questions, comments, or remarks in regards to any of these events, or fill us in with more details, please let us know. By emailing us at longcoatmafia@gmail.com, or you can leave us a message on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/The Longcoat Mafia Podcast. Or you can send us a direct message on Twitter, or just send us a tweet on Twitter. Our handle there is Longcoat Mafia. Our Instagram handle is Longcoat Mafia, so you could stalk us on social media, Twitter and Instagram, by clicking that like or follow button. And you can DM us on Instagram as well. Sorry, it's the cold messing my head. I got to focus a little bit more. We do have a YouTube channel, so stay tuned to both. I tell everybody every week, stay tuned to both our YouTube channel by hitting that subscribe. You gotta do a search for us on YouTube, but click that subscribe button because we do tend to put exclusive videos on YouTube, and as well as we put exclusive videos on Facebook. Hopefully, because we do have a rundown stripped video editing software on our phone that we're currently using because we are on borrowed equipment for the time being. Again, special thanks to Big Candy and his family for loaning us this laptop so we can continue bringing all of you some great content. So if you wish to donate to the show to help keep the lights on and get us better equipment, you can do so by going to GoFundMe.com/Help the Long Coat Mafia Podcast and donating a few bucks. And every dollar helps. It'll keep the lights on. It'll help us get new equipment for the show and better equipment. So please do so. And all receipts and unboxings will happen to show you where the money is going, and so you don't have to worry about it. So please support us as a independent podcaster or podcast, because we do not make money off this show in any way, shape, or form. So enough of me plugging my stuff. What else? I am forgetting something. I don't know what it is. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Stay tuned to next week for our Monique Dupree episode, and it's going to be great. She has a lot of stuff to say about what she does, being an actress, a wrestler, a model, everything. So it was a fun interview. It was very informative. So stay tuned with us, and peace.
See you next time on the Long Coat Mafia.